Archaeological findings suggest that the earliest human settlement in this city was around the Stone Age and the Iron Ages. It's a bit windy this morning, so bear with me. Most of the cities I've been to during this time, it's hot summer in July month of 2021, but the city of Ghent proves otherwise. It's actually very windy here, rainy, cloudy, and it defies the whole meaning of summer. But it won't, of course, stop me from giving you a hint about the city and its history. So sometime around 650 AD, Saint Amandus, who was the then Catholic missionary, or he was a Christian missionary, a bishop at the time, discovered St. Peter's and St. Barbara's Abbey. These were like cathedrals at the time. But not long after then, this city was plundered by the Vikings. The Vikings were hugely notorious back in the 11th century at the time. They were from the southern Scandinavia, and they were feared and dreaded along the whole of Europe. I don't quite understand the traffic. There are a lot of trams everywhere. I don't want to run into one, so I perhaps wait for them to find their way. Then I continue my journey and my history. Bear with me. So back to what I was saying about the Vikings being notorious in Europe at the time, between 8th and 11th century. They plundered this city in years 851 AD and 879. Imagine, like, leaving your city, leaving your country, going to another man's country for war, for exploitation, for whatsoever they have in their agenda at the time. But I'm not talking about Vikings today, but I can tell you, way back in the days, they were feared along the whole of Europe. People, once you hear the name Vikings, you are already trembling. They were here, right here where I'm standing, you know. So people are friendly here, nice, like all along. Once they see you filming, they're not, camera shy. They tell you hello and hi and stuff. It's of course very windy in the city here, so I left the main city, or the center of the city, to a nearby narrower place where I can vlog in peace without the wind disturbing me, you know. Alright, look at this architecture. Like, history also had it that 13th century medieval architecture is well preserved here. Like, a lot of churches were built later on when the Vikings left, but most of those churches do not serve as churches today. Today, most of them are serving banks, IT companies, and the rest of them. It's funny enough, isn't it? Like, you have a church that was built perhaps 300, 400 years ago, but nobody's going to the church. Right now, people go there to save their money, or maybe insure their life, their business, and whatever they have. Okay, let's take a look at the canal from this part of the town. Of course, you would always hear me say it's beautiful whenever I travel. Nature for me is beautiful. It doesn't matter who lives there or how life is there. For the fact that I'm in the nature already, it's something to say beautiful, you know. Look at this. Yeah, back to what I was saying. This city kept the whole medieval architecture and plan intact, and not much has changed since then. Hardly would you walk into any street without finding some old structure, churches, abandoned town halls, and the rest of them. It's remarkable. Well, of course, Old Town, for me, I believe, Old Town Estonia should be already confirmed a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This city is. For some reason, I don't know. So UNESCO, what are you waiting for? About Old Town Estonia, you should confirm it already. So, back to the history. Since the plundering of this city by the Vikings and by all sorts of pirates coming from Eastern and Western and Southern Europe, this city has also changed hands with neighboring countries a lot of times. For example, on or around 1814, this part of the country, Belgium, Ghent right now, Ghent was controlled around 1814, or it was a part of Netherlands, neighboring country, Netherlands. And you can imagine, right now, Ghent city, or the part of the city where I am right now, they speak Dutch, Netherlands Dutch, not German Dutch, as a part of the language. Look at that. When I travel to countries and cities, I always try to explore the countrysides. But in Europe, you often stumble across cities that inevitably you can't walk past without understanding what city is all about, or what the city is all about, and what made them who they are or what they are. Let's take a closer look at the ducks swimming. Is that a duck or a coot? Comment below. Looks more like a coot to me than a duck. Are you coming for bread? I'm sorry, I don't have any bread. Looks more like a coot. Yeah, it is. It's not a duck, or probably a different species of a duck. Back in the years, and perhaps until date, Ghent city in Belgium is also known for textile industry, booming textile industry. And I'll tell you what happened. Sometime around 18th, 19th century, there was a guy, Mr. Leven Bouwens. Mr. Bouwens at the time was in England, and you know what he did? Guess what he did? He smuggled the then technology meant for weaving of textile. He smuggled it from England to Belgium and revolutionized the whole textile industry in this country. So, bravo, Mr. Bouwens. You made your country proud wherever you are right now. You should be confirmed a hero. He was the first person who introduced mechanical weaving machine in this country in the 18th century. Back to where I was, there are a lot of cities that are of my interest, but although I cannot cover all of them, I'm traveling around this part of Europe, and when I looked up Ghent, it had a lot of spectacular landmarks, but for limited time, I'm going to give you just a little bit of limited history about this city. There are some history you cannot escape. For example, the First and the Second World War, which happened in the period of 1914 to 1918 and 1939 to 1945. During these two phases of wars, this part of Belgium was occupied by Germany at the time. And as you know, It was in the interest of Germans to take over the whole world, which of course crumbled shortly before the end of the Second World War. That dream died thanks to the Allies at the time, who helped, and the Russians as well, the Soviet Union, who helped in the breakdown or in the crackdown of Hitler's stronghold. But I'm not going to go in depth about First and Second World Wars. As I'm in Belgium, many people already know some dark history or some dark past, talking about King Leopold himself, with a lot of atrocities committed at the time in the past in East Central Africa, talking about Congo. If you remember, I always say this: when I travel, for me history is more of a literature than politics. I'm here to take a look at what the city is, understand them, just more about history. You can almost never talk about history of Europe somehow without mentioning the wars that they were involved in, or they at least suffered. In the Second World War, and the first actually, in both of them, from 1914 to 1918 was the first, and 1939 to 1945 was the second. The city of Ghent in Belgium was occupied by Germany at the time, and this country or city suffered a lot of bombardment in the hand of the German, because at the time, as you would expect, they wanted to take over the world, Germany. But that dream actually never actualized. That dream was cut down by the Allies at the time and by Soviet Union. The dream crumbled on them, on their feet, in their own soil in Berlin. But of course, as you would always hear me say, history for me is more of a literature, understanding what happened in the past, more of a literature than politics. Like, politics is out of my interest whatsoever, and religion, both of them are way out. So, if you're watching this video until this time, it means you found it interesting. And please always comment on my videos, like and share, and most importantly, support your boy by subscribing. And I promise you much more interesting stuff on the way. Stay tuned and don't go away. Thank you.